morning, everyone. I'm Lynn Israel, and I'm going to be the service leader today, along with our guest speaker, Phil Park Thomas. Tina Jones and Lisa Merrill Price are handling the kind of the tech things, and Steve is our audio director, and Ted Goldman is our music director. We are recording this service. And it will be posted on our YouTube page. But for privacy, we pause recording during the sharing of joys and concerns, just so that doesn't get broadcast out to the world. At the end of the service, after we extinguish the chalice, we will have announcements. We seek inspiration and meaning from a great many faith traditions and philosophies. We support each other's lifelong spiritual journey, and we encourage work for justice and peace. We value open minds and loving hearts. Here, may our minds stretch, our hearts open, and our spirits deepen. Let's see, do we have any first-time visitors here today? No, okay, all familiar faces as far as I can tell, so I'm gonna skip that whole spiel about if this is your first visit. So now, please, you've already done it, but do it again. Take a moment to greet your neighbors. All right, let's see here. The chalice today is going to be lit by Matt Rower. And please join me in reading these words by Leah Durland Jones for the lighting of the chalice. There we go. As we light this flame, we remember friends and loved ones near and far, and we give thanks. As the fire burns brightly, we open our minds and hearts to new ways of being, and we feel alive. As the room glows with warmth and kindness, we extend our circle ever wider to welcome those who want to come in, and we know love. For our first musical selection, I'm going to turn it over to Ted.
I don't know how many people grew up listening to Raffi songs, but yeah, Raffi, the children's singer, but I certainly did. And so this is a Raffi song. It's called Thanks a Lot. It's very simple. And your line is just to echo thanks a lot. It goes like this. So I'll say thanks a lot, and you'll say thanks a lot. Yeah, that's good. It's very, very simple. Oh, good. I didn't know we had lyrics. That's fantastic. Okay, so yeah, if you want to sing along for the various other parts too, that's great. I was just going to have you all do thanks a lot because that's the, easy to nail. But let's just go from there then. Thanks a lot, thanks a lot. Thanks for the sun and the sky. Thanks a lot. There we go. Thanks for the clouds so high. Thanks a lot. That's me. This is you. Thanks a lot. There we go. Thanks for the whispering wind. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the birds in the spring. But I think what I want to know is, though, kiddos, what are you guys thankful for? Besides the things that are already up on the screen. Tell me, though. Food. Food, okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the food on my table. What else? I also heard clothes. Clothes is great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the clothes on me. Thanks a lot. Grown-ups, what are you thankful for? Say again? Family. Thanks for the family we have. Thanks a lot. What else? I heard sweaters and Sonic. Shelter, sun, and friends. Oh, great. We've got a bunch of verses then. Thanks for the friends all around. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the shelter around us. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the sun high above. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the moonlit night. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the stars so bright. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the wondering me. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the way I feel. The last verse is just slightly different. It goes like this. Thanks for the animals. Thanks for the land. Thanks for the people everywhere. Let's try that together. Thanks for the animals. Thanks for the land. Thanks for the people everywhere. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all I've got. You. Thanks for all I've got. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
The first Thanksgiving is often portrayed as a friendly harvest celebration where pilgrims and generic nameless Indians come together to eat and give thanks. This story is a myth that was sparked in the mid-1800s when English accounts of the 1621 harvest event resurfaced and fueled the American imagination. Romanticized paintings and stereotypical images of pilgrims and Americans celebrating the first Thanksgiving became part of the national nostalgia and manifest destiny sentiment as the United States pushed west. Sarah Josepha Hale, an influential editor of a magazine called Godey's Ladies Book, led a campaign for a national Thanksgiving holiday, and the first Thanksgiving myth played right into her agenda. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln declared a national Thanksgiving in November to celebrate gratitude and unity amidst the turmoil of the Civil War. In the decades that followed, the first Thanksgiving myth and the national holiday evolved into a foundational national story reinforced by memorials, holiday marketing, literature, and school curricula. The first Thanksgiving as a national story is incomplete and inaccurate. The whole history is much more complex and includes the Wampanoag voice and perspective that have been largely absent from this narrative. Join me in welcoming Philip Park Thomas back to help us see through a different lens.
Millions of Canadians are learning to relieve their pain the Lacona way. Lacona is a centuries-old natural remedy.
Hi, I'm Graham Greene. Every year, Canadian commercial actors suffer painful back injuries while appropriating Native culture. Please do not plunder cherished Native symbols for monetary gains. But if you do, I recommend you use Dr. Green's Flesh Wound Reliever. It sterilizes and dulls the pain.
Dr. Greens. Thank you, Dr. Green. Oh.
Take the headdress off.
Dr. Green's, the Ab Original Pain Reliever.
Well, it is indeed a pleasure to be back with you again this morning, and we're going to explore our images of indigenous peoples in North America a little bit. This is that time of year in which we pull out the stereotypes, and it's good for us to step back and reflect a little bit on how we talk and imagine and converse with and realize the realities of real people. So that's where we're going to go today. How many of you have seen this painting before? Okay. Why don't you look at it for just a moment? Think of the details that are in this painting. What do you see? Let's go to the next one. The other one is the same thing. What's wrong with it? Pardon? You're on the right one. And also, what else? I saw a hand over here. Exactly. You notice that the Europeans are placed in a superior position, as if Europeans invented Thanksgiving. The reality is that Thanksgiving was celebrated in North America long before Europeans came. Not necessarily in November, but it did coincide with the growing season. And in fact, many of the eastern tribes, let's say, with the Mississippi River as the dividing line here on this continent, many of the eastern tribes, regardless of their language or their home tradition, would celebrate what is called the Green Corn Festival. And it lasts roughly 3 to 5 days, depending on the tribe and the tradition. And this goes back centuries before Europeans came. And in fact, the Pilgrim story, as was already been pointed out, is not very accurate. It's not the first Thanksgiving that Europeans celebrated in North America. You know where the first European settlers celebrated Thanksgiving? Florida. And it was a small, this might surprise you, French colony that existed for a time. And they celebrated Thanksgiving for similar reasons that the so-called Pilgrims celebrated. Then in the story, that they'd gotten through some hard times and had managed to come together as a small settlement. That settlement was superseded by the Spanish just a few years later. So that's why you don't hear about them. But there was a small French settlement in what is now Florida at the time. Let's go to the next slide. How many of you recognize this painting by Norman Rockwell? All right, what's going on here? Yeah, and what is come to be very traditional food? A dead bird. A fat dead bird, and I'm not going to knock it, because if it's prepared well, if you not a vegetarian, turkey is quite appetizing. Don't throw anything at me if you're a vegan or a vegetarian this morning, okay? But just click. A native artist has prepared a satiric stab at that. Now, what is on that plate? A can of Spam. Why? Because the reality is that on many of our poorer reservations, Spam is a commodity food. And it's one of the foods that's available courtesy of the federal government to poorer families on many of our reservations. Let's go next photo. When you think about native homes, what is the stereotype image? Teepee. This is a motel in Kentucky, not very far from Mammoth Caves, believe it or not. I've actually seen this place. They had a rather nice gift shop if you want to buy authentic native trinkets made in China. But this is the image a lot of people still have. And in fact, I'll tell you, and I was working at the Council House Friends Indian Center in Oklahoma. We had a group of college students come down from Wilmington College here in Ohio. And I took them to the household of one of our tribal members. We were serving primarily the Seneca Cayuga tribe. And we're sitting outside in the yard outside their house. You have to believe the garden that the Smiths had was just remarkable. And they were serving dinner. We were eating kind of al fresco out there in the yard. And Wayne Smith, who was our host, was a former chief of the Seneca Cayuga tribe. He was retired. And they were telling some of their stories. And one of the college students says, "This is all very interesting, but I came here to see an Indian house." And Wayne looked at him and says, "What do you think I live in?" Of course, I think the young man had expected. This is more typical in many reservations of an Indian house, a trailer home, or often a single level home. This is on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, one of the poorest areas in the United States. It is like a developing country or third world country there. The poverty is so poor. Click. Same reservation. Finally, in the last few years, they've been able to get some money to build better housing for their tribal members. But this too is Indian housing. Click. Who's this? Is it? It's Disney's version. Let's visit the real Pocahontas. Click. Her actual name was Motueka. And this is the only portrait we have from her in her lifetime. Does she look anything like Disney? Let's get to the real story. When Captain John Smith was establishing Jamestown, first off, the story where she saves his life from execution is surely more myth than history, though that happens to be what Disney wanted to emphasize. Also, at the time that Captain John Smith reportedly was having his life threatened by Powhatan, the woman Mataoka, known as Pocahontas to us in history. By the way, Pocahontas would have been a nickname. It meant playful one or naughty girl. certainly not something you'd give your child as a actual name, but it was a nickname that she was known by in her tribe. She was somewhere between 8 and 10 years old. Hardly the nubile young woman that Disney portrays her as. She, much later in her life, when she did turn around 17, we don't know her exact age because they didn't keep birth certificates back then, but when she was about 17, she married John Rolfe, who was temporarily working in the Jamestown colony. She converted to Anglicanism and was taken back to England, where she adopted not only English customs, she learned to speak English. She went by the name of Rebecca by this time, Rebecca Rolfe, and she became a proper English woman to be shown off at the court. This is her only known portrait taken from her in life, an engraving somebody made. Quite a challenge to the stereotype. She was not a Disney princess by any stretch of the imagination. There was no romance with Captain John Smith. If he had had a romance with an 8-year-old child, then we are dealing with a man who had a very serious problem. There's no record that he had that issue. She was going to return to North America, and they were sailing down the river to go to the ocean. And when she became seriously ill from probably some illness, we don't know what it was, and she died at Gravesend, where she is buried in Gravesend in England. And that is the real story of Pocahontas, one of tragedy. Yes? Yeah, she does look older, but she was probably only about approximately 21 when she died. She had one son that she gave to John Rolfe, and I'm not sure what happened to the son. There are some stories that he eventually was returned back to North America and returned and was raised by the Powhatan people that were his mother's people, but I'm not absolutely sure. Click. All right, red face, you've heard of blackface, and that is terribly embarrassing now to put on charcoal and pretend to be an African-American person. You know the famous Al Jolson character, when that was acceptable. Red face also occurs in Hollywood, and numerous non-native actors have played native characters. The most recent, of course, has been Johnny Depp, who played Tonto in it was kind of a flop of The Lone Ranger. They didn't even get his makeup correct. And no tribe that I know of wears a dead bird on its head as a headdress. This was found extremely offensive by many native people in North America when the movie came out. And it was probably one of many reasons the movie flopped. How many of you, I don't have the picture here, but how many of you remember the TV series of The Lone Ranger that was broadcast from about 1958 to about 1960, 61? Jay Silverheels played Tonto. He actually was of native blood. Didn't get much credit for it, but it's been very hard for native actors to break into Hollywood to play native characters until fairly recently. The breakthrough film was Dances with Wolves. Now that film has a lot of deficits in it. I'm not going to give you a critical review, but what is significant is that all the primary native characters were played by real native actors, including Graham Greene, whom you saw earlier. Click. How many of you remember this character from 1970-71 appeared in commercials protesting literature. He was known as the Weeping Indian. I mean, you remember those ads? He'd standing by a river and there was garbage floating down the river and he'd turn and weep, you know, and there was some message about how can we clean up our environment. The name of the character was Arnice Cody. Now, can anyone name his tribe? Italian, right. Italian. So you see, it's even fairly recent that we've been starting to break the red ceiling, so to speak. Click. Anyone know who this is? This is Louis Sockalexis. It took me 2 days to figure out how to spell that last name. He was a Penobscot, played for the Cleveland Spiders, now known as the Guardians. Played 3 seasons with them. A very talented player when he started with Cleveland around 1898. Played from 1898 to 1900. Unfortunately, his career became too short because he had a drinking problem. But in his first season, he had an 313 batting average. Not bad for your first season in the major leagues. And of course, in 1915, according to some, his memory was honored by changing the team name to the Indians. And you can see how he wasn't really well memorialized. We created Chief Wahoo in 1951. And Chief Wahoo's had several different incarnations, always grinning, and a lot redder than any native you'll ever find in this country. I had a friend, a Cherokee friend, who said he looked more like a grinning lobster. But the image of sports mascots still continues. Just as recently as this month on election day, I'm a poll worker, and our polls were in the gymnasium of a high school in Toledo, whose mascot is the Indians, and to have a 19th century image sort of glaring down at me while I worked in the polls was a little bit disconcerting. So we still haven't completely dealt with that yet. Today, we are still struggling. This is apparently an Indians fan before they became the Guardians. It took me a while to figure out that is supposed to be Chief Wahoo. Click. Non-native people always getting the regalia wrong. Click. 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 And you'll notice that very, very often the images of natives when they are portrayed, they're half naked, and often what you would call kind of savage. Let's go to real modern native people. Click. First, this makes the point. This came out about 20 years ago, but it still says what it is. Put yourself in the position of a modern Native American and seeing somebody portraying your people in kind of caricature fashion like this and saying, I'm honoring you. It doesn't quite work a lot of times. Click. Modern Native family. Click. 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 click, 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 click. Yes, we've sent a Native American finally into space. She worked on the International Space Station just a few years ago. Click, 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 click. Recognize him? It's Wes Studi from Oklahoma. He was born not far from where I used to work and live. And sometimes I think he gets the parts he gets because he can look fierce or serious. But in person, he's actually a very nice guy. Click. And yet, many of our children still are influenced by the media. This young boy is saying to the girl who's his classmate, "You don't look like an Indian," because of the images that children are still carrying in their minds because of media. Click. The basic image that most of the people, regardless of tribe or language, and by the way, until the 19th century, there were over 500 different native languages spoken in just what is now the United States. Just what is now the United States, not counting Canada, not counting Mexico, not counting the rest of Latin America. Many of those languages are gone, and there are attempts to try and on some tribes to recapture some of their languages. The Cherokee Nation has an effort to teach children, and it's not to get them to replace English, because they need English to function in society now, but to make them bilingual so that they haven't lost who they are. And I think that it's one thing to give up a language and because you're adopting another culture voluntarily. When another culture has been imposed upon your culture and you've been forced to take it away, and I'm not going to get into the story of the boarding schools and stuff like that today. You've probably heard some of them. And the process of assimilation has not always been fair or even or just. The message that they want to say is, we're still here. I have met Cherokee friends that went into a grocery store, they grew up, they're bilingual. One of the few families that are still bilingual. Went into a grocery store, and she and her sister were talking in Cherokee. It's comfortable, it's their home language. You know, we have immigrant families that have come to this country, and they'll go English when they are in the public sphere talking with other Americans, but when they're in their family, they'll talk in Italian or Yiddish or whatever their background is. Why would we deny them that comfort? Well, anyway, these two Cherokee sisters were standing in the line waiting to check out, and they were chatting in Cherokee. A woman comes up to them and says, "I wish you immigrants would go back where you came from." Say that to someone, this is their country initially. The irony was not lost on them, and of course the two sisters just broke down laughing. Click. I want to say that when I say beyond feathers, I want to get beyond the stereotypes. I'm going to show you feathers in the context in which they fit. This is regalia we're going to be seeing here. And it has symbolic meaning in ceremonies, in dances. They do not dress like this all the time. Powwows are usually intertribal gatherings, and they're very colorful, and you are welcome to attend them as a non-native. Just respect the rules, which are short. Don't make jokes about the regalia to their faces. That should be common sense. Don't take alcoholic beverages to a powwow. Those are prohibited. Enjoy the show. Click. Next video.
All right, let's see here. I think we're ready for some music from Ted.
I don't think you'll need me for this one to sing along because it's familiar enough.
It's an interesting choice of music, I think, because, looking at how the Native Americans have been discriminated against and marginalized for so long, sometimes you wonder what a wonderful world it is for them. But
There's light and shadow for all of us at all times, I think.
yep. Okay, it's now time to pass our offertory basket. Visitors, we welcome you to donate cash or use our PayPal link using the QR code that's in the basket, I think it is. But what predominantly supports us are the annual pledges by our members and friends. And there are some yellow cards in the pockets of the thing that show that you are a pledger. If you want to put something in the basket and you feel funny not putting cash in, you can put that little card in the basket to show that you do pledge to the church. So let's go ahead and pass those around. You've got some music for us, Ted? Now is the time for sharing of joys and concerns and milestones. Tina, please stop recording at this time. Those of you participating via Zoom may type your joy or concern in the chat box. The closing words today are from a Time magazine article published in 2019 and written by Sean Sherman, who apparently is also known as the Sioux Chef. Not chief, but chef, the Sioux Chef. He says, many of my indigenous brothers and sisters refuse to celebrate Thanksgiving, protesting the whitewashing of the horrors our ancestors went through, and I don't blame them. But I have not abandoned the holiday. I have just changed how I practice it. The thing is, we do not need the poisonous Pilgrims and Indians narrative. We do not need that illusion of past unity to actually unite people today. Instead, we can focus simply on values that apply to everybody: togetherness, generosity, and gratitude. And we can make the day about what everybody wants to talk and think about anyway: the food. People may not realize it, but what every person in this country shares, and the very history of this nation, has been in front of us the whole time. Most of our Thanksgiving recipes are made with indigenous foods: turkey, corn, beans, pumpkin, pumpkins, maple, wild rice, and the like. We should embrace this. For years, especially as the head of a company that focuses on indigenous foods, I have explored native foods. It has given me and can give all of us a deeper understanding of the land we stand on. It's exciting to reconnect with the nature around us. We Americans spend hours outdoors collecting foods like chanterelles, morels, ramps, which I don't know what those are, wild ginger, choke cherries, wild plums, crab apples, cactus fruit, pawpaws, manzanita berries, cattails, maple, wild rice, not the black stuff from California, which is a modified and completely different version of the true wild rice growing around the Great Lakes region. Cedar, rose hips, hickory, acorns, and walnuts. We can work with native growers producing heirloom beans, squash, and pumpkins, and native corn varieties, all coming in many shapes, sizes, and colors. We can have our feasts include dishes like cedar braised rabbit, sunchokes with sumac, pine stewed venison, smoked turkey with chestnuts, true wild rice with foraged mushrooms, native squash with maple, smoked salmon, and wild teas. No matter where you are in North America, you are on indigenous land. And so on this holiday that's coming up, the Thanksgiving we celebrate, and any day really, I urge people to explore a deeper connection to what are called American foods by understanding true Native American histories and begin using what grows naturally around us and to support Native American growers. There is no need to make Thanksgiving about a false past. It is so much better when it celebrates the beauty of the present. And now, please join me in reading the words for extinguishing our chalice. May we go forth from this place thankful for the life that sustains and renews us, and open to the grace that surrounds and surprises us. May we go forth from this place with openness and with thanksgiving. Now's the time for announcements. Does anyone have any? Any announcements? Yes, Megan.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you to our guest speaker for an amazing presentation. A couple announcements. The first is I am in the process of winterizing the garden, so a lot of leaves sitting around people's yards, and if you need a place to put them, I will happily take them to use as mulch in our garden beds. So if you want to just drop off bags of leaves in that fenced-in garden area, I will eventually get around to it, but you can leave the leaves there. Second, on December 2nd, Saturday, December 2nd, we're going to have a possibly chilly cleanup of the Slippery Elm Trail, just our adopted mile. We haven't done this in a while, and yes, it is a little late in the season, but wanted to do that before the year is out. Obviously, if it's really bad weather, we won't do it, but hopefully we can bundle up and get that done. Lastly, Heather Goldman let me know about something that's going on, and I'm scrolling through the newsletter right now. It's in the newsletter, by the way. Tonight, yeah. Oh gosh, where is it? Yeah, so tonight at Trinity United Methodist Church in Bowling Green at 7 p.m. There's a Thanksgiving, it's like an evensong service where it's basically just singing sacred songs, and they're inviting people from any congregation, no congregation at all. It's a very interfaith sort of event. So that's tonight at 7 p.m. and they would love to have any interested singers join them. If you have questions, maybe talk to me afterwards, or maybe Ted can help you out as well. All right, thanks a lot.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin, representing the Fellowship Committee. So Thanksgiving is on Thursday, and we're going to have it here. We're probably going to kick things off around 6 o'clock. Dinner probably starting around like 6:30, but I'm going to tell you 6, so you show up by 6:30. So yeah. Like, come bring something to eat or drink or not. It'll be really great. Second announcement is I have sign-up sheet here with me for circle dinners starting in 2024. If you don't know what a circle dinner is, it's essentially where there is a host and 6 to 8 people from the congregation get together and either meet at that person's house or they all go out to eat at a restaurant, and it's just a nice time, and we kind of circle everybody around. We usually do them from about January to May because that seems to be slightly less busy of a time for people. And we kind of just cycle people randomly. So every month, a different person is hosting and different people are going with that host. So I have a sign up sheet here. I'll put it out in the sanctuary. And yeah, thanks.
Those are beautiful. I have 2 announcements. The first one is it's a request from Stephanie and Diego. They have the twins, and on December 7th, 8th, and 9th, they are in a predicament and they need someone to watch the twins one of those days, or 2 of those days, or 3 of them, whatever you can do. Because Stephanie has to go out of town for a work thing, and they don't, unfortunately, their usual things that they would have for babysitting, they don't have. And so they're desperate. They really need people. I know that they have 1 day set, right?
Yeah, Becky and I are
Yeah.
team babysitting.
Exactly.
For 1 day.
So they have 2 days that they need covered, and they asked if you are interested in helping them out. Please, please, please talk to Stephanie. She is here today. They are here today. They took the babies out because they were afraid they were making too much noise. So they're here, and if you are interested in helping them, please let them know today. She's stressing out. Yeah. Oh, the December 7th, 8th, and 9th, and I don't think you guys have picked a particular day yet.
No, we just said.
So if there's one day that works better for you than others, I'm sure that they can figure it out. So my other thing was, you all have probably heard throughout the service that little bling, ling, 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 ling.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that is a notification from a Ring app. So Ring is an alarm, right? Somebody here, I don't know who, has that app on, and they don't have it, they don't have their phone silenced, and they don't have, you can temporarily turn it off for a couple of hours in the app. So I'm asking, if you have the Ring app on your phone, look into that, because it's really loud. Please.
Now, and that thing, it rings when somebody goes in and out of the door, right?
No, when there's a camera,
Oh.
and so if somebody passes by the camera, then it goes off. It is not the church. I don't think it's the church. Because I have it on my phone for the church, and I have it off, so, but I've been looking and it's not been going off. So it's somebody's home or something. So if it's you,
Yeah, but you.
I'm not trying to call you out. You don't have to raise your hand. I'm just asking if you could look at it if you have that app.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Right. Tina, anything on Zoom? Yeah. A little more comfortable. Okay. All right. And after our closing song, please stay and visit with us during coffee hour.
I think we'll have the lyrics up. Great.